Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Enlightened Entrepreneur. Today I'm super excited to be having my friend Kyle all the way from the US to talk to us about the common mistakes business owners and those in the startup phase make when they are getting started when it comes to marketing. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Incredible. Really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us about this very important topic.
My pleasure.
Incredible. Now, Kyle is the president and the CEO of the Silent Partner Marketing, which is a nationwide marketing agency, which is headquartered in Connecticut. And he's been a keynote speaker on entrepreneurship, leadership, marketing, and social media. Kyle is a former producer of news and special project, worked in broadcast journalism for many, many years. His team offer a marketing one-stop shop, filing the role of chief executive officer and supporting staff at a fraction of the cost. And we are very privileged to be having Kyle to talk to us about marketing, which he's been doing for the last 7 years. And I think that's very, very remarkable. So, Kyle, before we get started, talk to us about your background and how you got started on this journey.
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, I worked in television. I was also in radio and in print for about 10 years. It was my job to design newscasts, to decide what was going to go into the show, to send out the reporters and the anchors and the videographers, put together the newscast and make sure that it was executed live. 2008, the writing was on the wall. The market was starting to tank. TV stations and newspapers and radio stations were struggling to figure out a way around an outdated and antiquated business model, which was just heavily relying on commercials. So I saw businesses really trying to struggle to get their voice out there and to get their message out there. And I was working 80 to 100 hours a week on salary. And so it was, it was a great pickup line that I was a producer for NBC, but it was, you would also struggle to be able to afford to pay for the dates that you were going on at that point. So loved what I did, but I really wanted more. I wanted more out of storytelling. I wanted more out of an opportunity to help businesses to grow. Right. And so I took a buyout package and I began the journey. I started the agency in a very small capacity while I was running the marketing and advertising for a restaurant group. And then I was headhunted by an automotive group. So I was running their marketing, public relations, and advertising. And I continued to grow the business more and more. And it finally got to the point where I needed to make a decision as to how I wanted to move forward because I had so much business coming in. So after my wife and I got married and we sold our houses and we bought a house together, that was the day that we closed on the house was the day that I put in my notice and began the journey of running the agency full time.
Incredible. And you've been at it for the last 7 years. Certainly there's one or two things that business owners can learn about running a business from you.
Yeah, there are a lot of stories out there from business owners that like to tell you all about the glamour and like to tell you all about the fun and the good stuff. And there are a lot of great components to running your own business, but there are also a lot of challenges that business owners won't talk about. There are a lot of I really believe that there are a lot of fake entrepreneurs out there. You know what I'm talking about? We're talking about the people that'll go out and rent a Maserati for a day so that they can take a bunch of pictures of themselves in it and put it up on Instagram and Facebook. Correct. Or they'll go to the bank and take out a loan of $50,000 for the day just so that they could put all the cash on a hotel bed and roll around in it and take pictures. They're not people who are actually creating change or doing anything qualitative or quantitative to help others. Yes. So there are all sorts of different entrepreneurs out there, but I've lived the highs and the lows of startup life and of creating a team and a culture. So any advice that I could share, I'm more than happy to.
Incredible. One of the reasons I liked to talk to you and many of our audience, our experts here, is we delve into those nasty aspects of business, the thing that we don't really talk about. So I'm going to take you there. What were some of the roadblocks you faced in the early years that knowing what you know now, you probably wouldn't have dealt with them differently?
Sure. I mean, there are two big ones that come to mind right off the rip. The first one is that so many entrepreneurs get into what they do because they're passionate about what they do.
Yes.
And that was the case for me from a marketing perspective. I was very passionate about marketing, but I didn't know the first thing about running a business.
Right.
And so the tax code here in the United States is it could be very, very difficult to navigate and to understand. And specifically the state that we are headquartered in is massively challenging. I've spoken over the years to many different attorneys and accountants, and they all said, they structure the tax code in a way that's sort of that aha, gotcha moment, which they're hidden little things that you aren't expecting that they plug in there just so that they could turn around and say, aha, gotcha, we're going to hit you with some fines and fees. So, in retrospect, I would have taken while I was working full-time and for somebody else and running the business full-time, I was investing all of the money that I made with the business back into the business, but I was investing it into hardware and equipment and camera gear and computers, things that were going to create the hardware and the structural foundation for the growth of the agency. But I should have earlier on taken a bigger portion of that money and set it aside specifically for accounting research and legal research, because I would have saved myself a lot of headaches by hiring somebody sooner to be our chief financial officer and to navigate all of those waters, because the amount of time and energy and stress and frustration that I spent trying to navigate waters that I just didn't know how to swim, I would have been better off and saved more money and saved more headaches by hiring somebody who knows what they're doing. A lot of people say that, we learn this in school, right? When you have weaknesses, you should double down on those weaknesses and get better at them. That's ludicrous. Don't double down on your weaknesses. Hire somebody to deal with those weaknesses and instead quadruple down on your strengths.
Incredible. Absolutely. You touched on the area of creation of a team there, and it's one of the area that I personally struggled in the beginning, putting the team together. How did you navigate that during those early years?
I screwed up. Candidly, I did. I tried to find people who were equally as passionate about what they did and who came from sort of that creative background. So I was hiring videographers and photographers and writers and graphic designers and web developers and public relations people. I was trying to create this team, but I wasn't looking at that point for a team that had any kind of a corporate background, because I said, I don't want my team to be a corporate team. I mean, we have a 25-foot bar in our office. We have 8-foot beanbag chairs. We have an Xbox. We have a personal caterer. I mean, we have a very unique environment. And so I said, well, I want to create that culture, that unique environment. And that was a mistake, because I should have been looking at people who had that corporate background and who had that structure and who understood that this environment that they're in now is an amazing environment compared to where they were. And instead, I was going after people who had just worked for themselves. And there's a lot of creativity there. There's a lot of hustle there. But there's also not a lot of that structure.
Correct.
And so, it was initially like putting together the island of misfits. And that's not a knock on any of the employees. It's more of a knock on myself, because I was bringing together people who didn't know or understand or appreciate or respect what structure was. And so when you're just spending so much time trying to create a culture of structure, it goes against everything that I was trying to create. So moving forward, after I came around that turning point, which took about 8 months, I realized that I would be better off pulling people who had that structured background and exposing them to this new world and this new culture.
Outstanding. And one of the things I found myself struggled with that was, who do you trust? Because there's a lot of people there that says, oh, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Did you find that to be a challenge, and how did you go about identifying the right people to then work with?
I did and I didn't. I inherently don't trust anybody. And that sounds like such a jerk thing to say, right? To say that I don't trust anybody. But to me, you've got to prove that you are who you say you are. You've got to prove that you have the chops and that you're going to You walk the walk and not just talk the talk. So everybody that I've ever hired, I've done it with a very open mind and an open heart. Right. But I also did it by setting that expectation early on of who we are, how we operate. And, I tell everybody right off the rip two things. I tell them, first of all, I hire people who are smarter than me for the positions that I'm hiring for. I believe that if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So I always want to hire people who are smarter than me. But the other thing, too, is I tell people, listen, you're going to screw up, and I want you to screw up. And the look on everybody's face when the CEO of a company says you're going to screw up and I want you to screw up, it's a very disarming thing. They don't know what to do with themselves. And I explain that I want them to screw up because that is the way that they're going to learn. That's the way that we are going to stay on the cutting edge, by pushing the envelope and not thinking outside the box, but lighting the damn box on fire and watching it burn. But as part of that risk-taking, it's natural to have failure. So I tell them, when you screw up, the only thing that I ask is let me know in advance so that we can fix it and we can do the right thing and we can do damage control and we can use this as a learning opportunity for ourselves and for our clients.
Excellent.
I mean, we spend millions of dollars a year on traditional advertising. We spend tens of millions of dollars a year on digital advertising. We'll spend $2 million this year on Snapchat, but you don't get everything right, and if you are getting everything right, it means that you're not pushing the envelope. It means you're not trying hard enough. I want to fail more than every other agency in America because it means that we took more chances and we were able to get back up more than everybody else. It's not about how many times you fail. It's about how many times you're able to get back up.
Absolutely outstanding. And I'm sure business owners are finding this as helpful as I am, because this is something that I wish somebody had told me when I was getting started. You are going to fail. But be prepared to do that.
Absolutely. People are too damn romantic about business, my friend. People are so romantic thinking, well, if I lose a client, I'm going to go eat a pint of Ben and Jerry's and cry in my room for a week because, oh, woe is me. But guess what? The world is going to punch you in the face. The world is going to punch you in the face again and again and again. And that's okay. That's how we develop a thick skin. You can't take those losses personally. When a client says this isn't going to work, it's not necessarily a knock on you or your team or your business or your work ethic. It just means it's not a good fit. I mean, running a business is like dating. You're going to date, hopefully, a lot of different people. You're going to find characteristics about those people that you're dating, in this case, the clients that you like and that you want more of, and you're going to learn a lot about yourself and what your core values are. So at the end of the day, it's dating, it's a dance, and you're going to get hurt and you're going to have those upsets and you're going to have those setbacks. But if you harp on that and you perseverate on that and you let that take away from your energy or your drive or your enthusiasm, that's when you become a loser. Not when you lose a client. It's when you allow that loss to seep into your soul and slow you down and hold you back.
Absolutely. And you see, as you develop, that stamina in the early years, because you will still have that, as long as you do business, because it just doesn't go away. The sooner you get it, the stronger you become.
Absolutely. And it'll keep coming. There are going to be good days and there are going to be bad days. We're dealing with somebody right now who's threatening to sue us because they owe us money. And they said, well, if we sue you, we know we don't have a case at all, but we know it's going to cost you more to defend yourself than you're going to get out of us from what we owe you anyway. I mean, these are the kind of idiots that are out there in the world.
That's proper calculated, man.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable. But nobody talks about this stuff, right? Business owners don't share this because our attorneys and our publicists all say, you can't open your mouth about that. I don't give a damn about opening my mouth about that because these are the challenges that business owners face. There are legitimately bad people that are out there.
Correct.
So what am I going to do? I'm going to go home and cry? No. What we're going to do is we're going to fight, we're going to win, and then we're going to turn around and share that story with everybody, and somebody is going to have that story resonate with them, and they're going to go, you know what? The fact that you guys had the spine to actually share that story, we want to hire your agency because you know how to tell a damn good story. So everything that's a potential loss or a setback, you need to turn that into a win. You need to leverage that.
Absolutely. Well, Carl, let me take you to about marketing, which is your specialty.
Sure.
For a moment. I know you work with business owners already. If you were to talk to business owners who are looking for marketing agents to work with, what would you say to them they have to look out for in deciding which is the best agents to work with?
So I always recommend that things start from the strategy.
Right.
Advertising is a delivery method, but marketing is the message. So understand the message and the core value and then figure out how to deliver it from there. If an agency or a prospective agency isn't asking a lot of questions about your business, it's probably a red flag. If an agency is willing to take on everybody and anybody as clients, that should be a red flag. We turned away more than 400 prospects in the last 2 years because not everybody's going to be a fit. So if you're trying to be everything to everybody, you as an agency are going to lose, and that means that your clients are going to lose as well. Always be skeptical about agencies that aren't willing to give you the raw data. So you want Google Analytics, you want all of that raw data, and be skeptical about agencies that take a percentage of spend on your advertising, whether it be traditional advertising or digital advertising. And that's a really big thing that people don't think about. Because if I, as an agency, say to you, listen, this ad campaign is going really well, you need to spend another $10,000 a month on this ad campaign, but I'm taking 30% of that as a commission, how do you trust me? How do you trust my recommendations when I have skin in the game on that?
Absolutely. So, maybe you're just doing it to get the 30% commission.
Exactly my point, my friend. So you see these agencies that'll say, look, the national click-through average on display advertising is 0.19%. Now you have a 0.24% click-through rate. Like, first of all, 0.24%. My God, I have a greater chance of getting struck by lightning than I have of converting a sale because of a display ad. And then you look at that 0.24% and you look at the true raw data behind it and the true analytics, and you realize that you have a higher click-through rate because people's fat fingers are accidentally clicking on your ad when they're trying to cross off that ad on their phone.
Right.
All of a sudden you realize that the metrics are screwed up. But the agency's giving you these metrics because they have a percentage of spend. Right. So be very, very wary of that. And be wary of an agency that isn't willing to share with you testimonials from other clients. Be wary of an agency that isn't good at storytelling. The best form of advertising, marketing or advertising, it's storytelling. The best form of advertising is that you don't realize you're being sold to. So, agencies that focus on taking your core values and your unique selling proposition and turn that into a narrative for you, that's where you're going to find a higher level of success. So just some pitfalls to look out for. But know your story before you even begin looking for an agency.
Outstanding. I like this. The last part, you said all of those are great things, but the one that really jumped at me is knowing your story. Because when you know your story, really you'll be able to convey it to the agents, and the agents will ask you the right questions. And will create something that is going to be a win-win for the agents and for the people you're targeting as well.
Absolutely. And, one of the other things that we do very, very differently, and a lot of people have a big problem with this, and that's okay because I don't like those people anyway, is that we take on some very controversial stuff. I take on a lot of controversy in how I market our agency. Right. So we've never advertised. We've never had to advertise. Everything has been through either word of mouth or through the content that I'm creating about us and about our story. So in the state of Connecticut alone, there are more than 700,000 registered businesses. Well, we do business across 50 states. So when you scale that number up, I don't want 1% of all of the businesses that are just in the state of Connecticut as clients. So when you scale that up, I don't want 0.001% of all of the businesses in the United States as clients, which means that I can piss off 99.999% of business owners and still win big. And the reason that that's so important, and I'm not suggesting that everybody's marketing strategy should be to go out there and offend people or make everybody angry, but my point in those metrics is very simple. It's you need to be 100% authentic in who you are and the story that you're telling. You need to know those values and double down on those values. All we have to do if we want some national example or international examples of this is look at the Brexit and look at Donald Trump's win. I called Donald Trump's victory 19 months ago, not because I think he's the most amazing person on the face of the planet, but because I understand consumer behavior. And I understood that, I said before this guy even entered into the race, I said, if Donald Trump enters, he's not going to run a political campaign, he's going to run a marketing campaign. And the difference between the two is that with an effective marketing campaign, you're built around an authentic voice. So love him or hate him, it's that authenticity in marketing, the fact that he's willing to double down on things, even if it's things that people don't like. So being authentic in your marketing, it's just so crucial to having that story resonate with your target demographic.
Absolutely. I love the example that you gave there, that it was a marketing campaign, not a political campaign.
Absolutely. It is not a political campaign. And everybody, man, when 19 months ago I said if this man throws his hat in the ring, he's going to win. Oh, I was doing interviews in national media outlets, and they were like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You're out of your mind. Friends and family, you're an idiot, blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, guys, you can tell me in 19 months that I'm an idiot when this guy wins the race. And, man, I got so much heat from everybody. But I understand the market. So I'm looking on the social media trends and the engagement trends, and I'm seeing that you've got all of these other people who are entering into the primary who are struggling to pull a couple of hundred viewers on Facebook Live or YouTube Live. Hillary Clinton is trying to get 900, 1,000 people, and this guy's pulling 100,000 people on his live views. So again, to me, this isn't about politics. This isn't about whether or not you like a specific candidate. This is about engagement. And this is about understanding the market and the paradigm shift that's happened in our culture. So if you can understand the paradigm shift that's happened in our culture and how people are consuming content and how to make content resonate with them, as a business owner, you will win every single time.
Absolutely. Now let's dive into the mistakes you see business owners make when it comes to marketing.
Yep. They're not authentic. They're afraid to take a stance. They're afraid to take a perspective. So they'll just water down their messaging because they don't want to offend anybody. They're hoping that their message is going to resonate with everybody and that everybody will love them. But the reality of it is that everybody's not going to love you. They just won't. You could say the most unoffensive thing on the face of the planet. You could say that puppy dog is cute. And someone is going to say, you are a horrible person for thinking that puppy dog is cute. You think that puppy dog is cute because it's a golden retriever, which means that you don't like black dogs, which means that you're racist. Or you don't like that dog because, we could go in a million different directions. People are always going to be offended by something. And so when that goes back to the core values of your company, if you embrace people for who they are, regardless of their socioeconomic background or their race or their gender or who they care about, and if you just focus on the person and the story, you're always going to offend somebody in some way, shape, or form. But being authentic and being just a real person and not judging your customers or your clients on anything other than whether or not they're a good person and have a good product, that's going to help you. We're in this day and age where we can't talk about the difference between people. You growing up, so on my dad's side of the family is Puerto Rican.
Right.
And so my dad's side is very, very dark skinned. And it was never something that you even thought about or talked about. It was, you're not looking at people and going, this guy's white, this guy's black, this guy's Hispanic, this guy's Chinese, anything like that. You're just judging people based on their character.
Correct.
And when you try and have that conversation these days, all of a sudden we get into this fight and this debate because people are afraid to even have that conversation. We're afraid to just talk about the everyday things. And so business owners will go way out of their way to avoid anything that's even close to being controversial. And in doing so, they lose an opportunity. So the reason why the content that I write, which is controversial, performs so well is because people on both sides will come out on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter and talk about it. They'll hate on it, they'll love it, but they'll have that engagement on it. And the more people engage with it, the higher the organic reach is. Wow. So every time somebody shares a piece that I write and they verbally punch me in the face with it and say, this guy's such a jerk, did you see this? Well, that's 1,000 more people that were just exposed to my piece because that person didn't like it. So we use that frustration and that back and forth in a very productive, constructive way to grow the brand.
Outstanding, outstanding. Now, still following up on that, why is this mistake so crucial to avoid, especially if you are a startup?
I think it's so crucial because you need to develop your identity. You need to develop your brand. You need to know and embrace your brand and your story before you could try and sell anybody anything. You have to sort of have that core structural foundation, not just of the business structure, but also sort of that emotional intelligence about your business. Because otherwise, it's going to be very easy for you to be destroyed because people are coming at you from so many different directions. And if you don't yet know who you are or what your business is and what it truly stands for at the very core of its foundation, you're going to fall apart. You can't market something that you don't fully know or understand or embrace. I'll give you a great example. So about 4 years ago, this guy called me up and said, listen, I'm going to be starting a brewery. I've got this amazing beer, and I really, I've heard a lot of amazing things about you guys, so I want you to handle our marketing. Right. I said, okay, well, first things first, let's sit down. I want to try your beer. So we sat down, and he had me try all of his beers, and I said, listen, I don't mean any disrespect with this, but I'm just not a fan of these beers. And he said, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. This beer is amazing. I said, I respect that, and I'm sure that there are a lot of people that love your beer. I just don't like it. It's just not for me. And he said, okay, well, that aside, how much is it going to cost? What's your agency going to charge to market our beer? He goes, I've got tons of investment money. Whatever, you tell me what the number is. Now, that's sort of a big turning point, because are you going to promote and market something that you don't believe in?
No.
That's a lot of money to leave on the table, though, to say, I'm not going to market this because I don't like it. Well, there's a lot of stuff that I don't like, but I'm going to market. But it also sort of speaks to your thoughts about what that market is going to do. So I don't want to take on a client that I don't believe will be able to be successful with. So I said, I'm going to refer you to a friend of mine that also runs an agency, and I'm going to pass on this opportunity. And he tore me a new one. You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. You're such a bad person. You're a stupid person. Just tearing into me. And I said, listen, I don't mean any offense. I just don't like the beer. It's just not for me. So we walked away, and I'm thinking, this guy is such a jerk. I never want to work with somebody like that. Such a jerk. Well, this beer company turned out to absolutely explode, and it is one of the largest beer companies now in America.
Wow.
I called that one wrong. And I could have just shut up and held that story to myself and never share that with anybody. But in retrospect, if I could go back and do it all again, I don't know that I would do anything different, because I would have a very hard time marketing something that I didn't believe in. Now, in fairness, the guy's recipe has changed significantly, and I tried his beer a few weeks ago, and the beer is pretty damn good now. But, you have to know who you are. You have to have that core set of values and be willing to stand by that and double down on that. Because if you begin sacrificing your core values, if you don't stand for one thing, what do you stand for?
Yes, you'll be swept over by any wind that comes your way. So you
Exactly.
just really need to know yourself.
And that's millions of dollars that we left on the table. Literally
right.
Millions of dollars that we left on the table. But I could sleep at night because I wasn't trying to sell something that I didn't believe in.
Yes. Well, assuming we've got this covered, what do you normally see business owners making mistakes, especially in today's culture, when it comes to marketing their service businesses or even their offline business?
One of the big mistakes that I see businesses make is not putting their employees first. I think
Right.
that's a huge mistake that any business owner could make. And their argument is, well, we have to put the clients first because that's what generates the revenue to keep the employees, which it's a fair concern and a fair argument. But if you have internal strife and you've got a lot of problems internally and you haven't created a strong culture of respect and passion and energy, then you're going to lose those clients. So start from the top down. Family is very, very important to me. I'm blessed to have a wife and a 2-year-old. She just turned 2, and then we just had another daughter about 3 weeks ago.
Congratulations to you, man.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm totally outnumbered now. 3 girls in my house. I'm screwed. But, family is very important to me. And I'm also blessed to have employees that I'm helping them to go through the process of starting their own families and buy houses or plan for retirement. It feels really good to be a part of that. And so at the end of the day, if an employee fails, if an employee screws up, the worst that happens is that employee is going to lose their job. If the business owner screws up, if the CEO of a company screws up, it's bad, man. Everybody loses their jobs if we screw up really bad. So I'm not just supporting my family, I'm supporting 20 other families.
That's true.
Plus all of the families of the clients that we support. That's a heavy burden. But that burden is lightened by focusing on those success stories among your families. And when I say your families, I'm talking about your employees, and I'm talking about their families. And if you just always keep in check those values, I mean, for me, family and faith are two extremely important values. And if you begin to sacrifice family and faith, then you have nothing. It doesn't matter how successful your business is. What are you doing it all for? So create that culture internally of trust and respect. I always tell people I don't have an open door policy at our company. I don't have a damn door. I want people to call me on things. I want them to challenge me. I want them to tell me that I'm wrong. Create that internal culture and focus on the employees first and that morale first. Disney does it best. So Disney's philosophy is that the employees are more important than the customers. They have that top-down approach. And every employee of Disney, from the executives in the company all the way down to the janitors, have to know everything that there is to know about that company. They have to know the ins and the outs and the core values. That is how you create a platform to win. That's how you create a platform for success, because when everybody on that team is on board, all that you're going to do is continue to grow because you have that energy and you have that enthusiasm and you have that passion of all of the employees now looking out for each other and looking out for the clients because they just want to help everybody grow.
Outstanding. As we come toward the end of our time together here, is there any major mistake that you see business owners make when it comes to marketing, yet they think they're doing it right?
Yeah, automation and social media, I think, is one of the biggest mistakes that I see on a regular basis.
Right.
So people will use platforms like If This Then That or Hootsuite, and they all have their value, but they'll take the same piece of content, the exact same structure and sentence style and picture and graphic, and they'll share that exact same thing on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram and on Pinterest and on LinkedIn. And the reality of it, the analogy that I like to use, my friend, is, all right, so when you go home to your family, you have one type of conversation with them, you have one inflection, you have one personality type. You're at work, you're a little bit of a different person. You talk to people at work differently. You have different conversations. You go out to the bar with your boys, you've got a different kind of personality. So your personality and your conversation structure and everything adapts and adjusts based on the environment that you're in.
Correct.
And yet, so many businesses don't do that when it comes to social media. So you have different types of people and different ways of conversing on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter. So taking the exact same content and using that same structure for all different platforms, you just sort of look like an idiot because it shows that you don't understand that platform. So that is a huge mistake that businesses make. Another mistake is scheduling content out in advance and then forgetting that you scheduled it out. So out here we had the unfortunate bombings in Boston during the marathon, and I'm still friends with a tremendous amount of reporters. So I started seeing the news about the Boston bombings on Twitter before it even hit the mainstream media. And while Twitter is erupting with all of these stories and conversations about this terrible tragedy, you see tweets that are going out, buy my book, this DVD is on sale right now. So people are selling. But it's because they scheduled everything out in advance and they don't understand the conversation that's happening right now. They don't understand that dynamic. Right. And that is a very, very dangerous move because it shows that you're out of touch. It comes across as you lacking in sensitivity, lacking in relevancy. So scheduling out content and not being true, authentic, and native to the platforms that you're marketing on, two of the biggest mistakes that I've seen.
Outstanding. And I can see how detrimental that can be to a business owner who's getting started, being branded as insensitive and having a message that does not line up with what's going on. Absolutely. Now, I know there will be people who wants to connect with you. How can they do that?
On Facebook, I've got my public figure page, which is at Kyle Reyes CEO. They could connect with me on LinkedIn. Kyle Reyes, CEO on LinkedIn. They could visit our website, thesilentpartnermarketing.com. They could follow us on Snapchat at the Silent Partner, DA Silent Partner. We're on all platforms. We do a day in the life of an entrepreneur behind the scenes on Snapchat every day. So, we're basically everywhere.
Wow, incredible. I just recalled a question I was asked recently when I was speaking at an event, on my outsourcing, and they were asking me, when it comes to marketing, how do you cut through all the noise to get your message heard? I said, I will come back to you. I'm going to find somebody who knows that.
I say cutting through that noise, a lot of that comes back to the controversy sometimes. I wrote a piece in April, an open letter to college crybabies from a CEO, and I made a lot of people very angry, and I made a lot of other people very happy, very excited, and I got the phone call from Fox and Friends in New York City saying, we want to have you on the show. So, not being afraid to take on controversy or to do things a little bit differently to cut through all of that noise, it helps. It really, really helps. That authenticity and that knowing who you are will always cut through that noise if you manage the distribution properly.
Incredible. Outstanding. And once again, Kyle, thank you so much for being here with us today and talking about this. Now, you have a special website that I would like to make available to the people. Could you let them know where that is?
Yep, it's thesilentpartnermarketing.com.
Incredible. And again, the silentpartnermarketing.com, and you find it at the bottom of this recording as well, should you forget that. Kyle, any final words for the budding entrepreneur who is getting started and hasn't, they are there, but they're not out there making big money? What can you say to them?
Take risks. Don't be afraid of failing, but just make sure that your family is always protected. Have those core values. For me, it's family and faith.
Yes.
I believe that, as much as everyone says that I'm the CEO of our company, God is really the CEO of my company. So not everybody has faith, not everybody has family, but find something that makes you tick. Get to the why. Get to the why of why you're doing things, of why you've created your company, of why you are doing whatever it is that you're doing, and never forget that why.
Correct. I love how you emphasize the aspect of faith, because it's played a role in my life during those moments when you're not so sure what to do, and you have moments of quietness, and you have a breakthrough, ideas come to you. How is the role of faith played out in your business?
It just grounds you. It helps you make the right decisions. And we just announced that we're donating $250,000 worth of video production to police departments to help tell their stories.
Right.
We do a lot of pro bono work for churches and all sorts of other faith centers. I personally believe that I'm very blessed, that everybody in my company is very blessed. It's interesting when you look at major religions, all the different major religions, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, a lot of them have some of the same core structure and some of the same beginnings. And it's about the teachings of Abraham, without getting too far into this, that all of a sudden all these different religions started fracturing off. So my point is that for people that do have faith, regardless of what that faith is, a lot of people all believe in some kind of God. They don't necessarily call him the same thing or talk to him in the same way. But for a lot of people, that faith helps to ground them, and it helps to give them that moral compass. And I personally like doing business with people who have some form of faith, regardless of what that faith is, because it tends to guide them. And it tends to be that compass for them, and it's sort of a little bit disarming when we're not afraid to have that conversation. So it's been very important for me to recognize that I personally believe that there's something bigger than all of us, and someone that we answer to that's not just our significant others at the end of the day.
Outstanding, absolutely. And in our previous conversation, I think in the correspondence that you had with the team there, you expressed your belief in giving to the community. Would you talk to us about that for a moment?
Yeah, Shirley Chisholm once said, service is the rent we pay for the privilege of living on this earth. And there are a lot of people who aren't as blessed or as fortunate as us. Growing up, we had nothing. I mean, we had very, very little. My parents both worked 3 jobs just to put food on the table. I know that they skipped meals with, not wanting us to know that they were skipping meals, but they skipped meals so that we could eat. And they both worked 3 jobs so that we could go to, private school growing up so that we could get that faith structure. They took us to church every Sunday, and we said our prayers every day. And, we really were taught that you give back to people. You give back to those who have helped you along the way. You give and give and give to those who aren't as blessed or as fortunate as you are. And so that was part of the core of my childhood, which was doing for others. And, a lot of that does come back to faith, but it comes back to let's always try and support other people or other organizations, help tell their stories, because if we're blessed enough to be in that opportunity where we can give back, we should do that.
Absolutely. And I discovered something unique about giving. When you give, it seems like you cannot outgive. More comes to you in different ways or shapes or form.
Absolutely.
And it's incredible to be in a position to give. I think it's marvelous. Well, my friend, thank you so much for being here with us and sharing, those nuggets of wisdom for with our business owners. And if you're listening, and you just had some nuggets there, what I encourage you is to take 1 or 2 of those things and put them into practice. One of my mentors said, "Success leaves clue," and listen to what Kyle is saying. He's been in the business for a while and has learned 1 or 2 things, and is doing really well for himself. So there is something there to learn. I certainly have managed to take some notes while I was listening here. Now, with that said, I want to invite you once again to go and visit Kyle's website, which is thesilentpartnermarketing.com. Thesilentpartnermarketing.com for more information. Alternatively, check out his Facebook as Kyle Reyes. That's an Reyes, and connect with him there. Alternatively, just get in touch with us here at World Outsourcing Solutions. Then we'll put you in touch with him. With that said, I really appreciate you taking time to listen to our conversation here, and I hope you learn something that you can apply in your business very, very soon. With that said, thanks again, Kyle, for being here with us.
Thank you, brother. God bless.
You too, my brother. Bye for now.